Good morning. There's a light over through the privet type place. There's a light coming through the privet. Can you believe it? Can it be true? Is it true? I woke up this morning and I was like, is it? Is it true? Is it over? Is it actually over? Like, I daren't think, I daren't hope. But if it is, oh, happy day indeed. And all it took was for me to say something. I don't get that one because I'd already tried that one. So I'm gonna have a look back and see what I did different to get him to slow down at least, because I have tried that before, but this time I suppose it came on the back of 3 weeks of sort of abstinence. I was constantly trying not to acknowledge them and to try and keep their lies and their shit, because they were just piling it on every single day, like more and more and more, as much as they could. I was trying to acknowledge that, but at the same time not feed them. So that was a difficult one. And then it's been interesting. It's been very interesting anyway. This time round, I could tell it was possibly going to have a bit of a go if I could say something, if I could get to say something, because of what happened at Slotham's the other night. And I haven't even seen that yet, but from what I heard, Messiah went in, he asked them straight up what the problem was, asked them for a reason, and what he got was a load of circular word salad and nonsense. And that was just really telling to me, because at this point it's like the first time really that anyone from outside has come in and asked. And I think with the Messiah thing, it's got massive similarities with the things that have been going on with him, and massive differences as well. But when you've got someone coming in who's fresh from dealing with a crooked therapist who's been targeting and attacking people online, then I think they might be a little bit more wary than anyone else coming in. And they had their chance, you know what I mean? If they were so righteous and they had a decent reason and some decent stuff to back it up, then they would have said. Because the difference being is that there's been a time when I've shut myself down, there's been a time when I've been shut down, but I've always, if someone asked me, I'd tell them, as you know, every single bit of my life story and everything. Because I'd be like, no, these guys have done this and it's been ridiculous, and it's all like anecdotal, there's all actual incidents and things that they've said and things that they've done. It's not just like this person is a thing because they're as bad as this, and then just harping on that same thing forever. There's no like actual incidents. And even, I mean, I'm going to go over them at my own leisure, hopefully, and to a greater detail over the coming weeks. But it was very much a case that what I saw coming from them, there were no real incidents, and when there were, it was like, for instance, like they brought up, they were Hail Marying it the other day, and they were bringing up me when I did my boob flash to evil, which is like, it's a bit like tacky in the sense, obviously it was a bit of a, how could it not be, but you know, it was a bit of fun between two adults who were having fun at the time and were enjoying, I thought, each other's company. You also got the fact that we even brought that up like as a laugh, just to wind up like Albert and that at the time. So the fact that he's having to rely on that and go back to that is really sad, because it's taking apart something which was a really nice memory for us, you know, for both of us. I thought just taking apart something which was done with love, completely with just like the best intentions in the world, just as a laugh, and just taking that and using it, and he's held on to it until now to do it, which is interesting. I know they brought it up before, but I know they were probably scraping the bottom of the barrel, and it's just to use that one, is that him feeling like he had to bring something else out to beef it up for Ricardo. Was Ricardo putting some sort of pressure on him, unsaid, this sort of peer pressure type thing, and a precedent that they'd always had, which I've seen him put the pressure on him all the time. That's what I commented on before about how many times both Ron and Evil, who were my friends in this, could have just backed off from this at any time and just been alright with me, and they were many times. And this is why anything that Evil said, especially the little bits that I saw about the last time when he was really disparaging me and basically making it out as if I was just begging him and harassing him online, and that he had nothing to do with me. I mean, like, if you go that far, there's just nothing to back that up, is there? Do you know what I mean? And even the timelines are all fucked up. Even just after the crunch that time when you had that chat with me, it don't make sense, does it? None of it does. And I knew then that they had nothing left to give. And I wonder what got them to that, because is it just that if you starve them? They had nothing to start with though, and they were just making it out of nothing. I don't know what the difference is, but it's suffice to say that hopefully it's worked. Although my prediction though, excuse me, is that it will be a couple of days grace, and then they'll come back again with more, which is what they've been like. The few times when I've managed to put a stop to them, we had little breaks like this. The only times I've had them is when, in the past, earlier on, it was Ron and Evil. Ron took a bit longer to get broken in, but it was during the breaking in period of Ron and Evil where they were still seeing sense. So I was still treating them as friends for a long time after they started, because that's what you do. And then so again, when they were coming back to, it's just a joke, because you can't take a joke. It's like, no, really, there's so much evidence to prove that that's not what happened, because for months afterwards I was still treating you guys as friends, especially you, Ron, and you just had to push it because Ricardo was putting the pressure on. So we'll see what happens, but I'm watching them, keeping an eye out, and I can, as I said before, I can take my time doing the analysis of just what they've been like and what they've been doing, because it has been quite unbelievable. Now it's finally over, maybe, hopefully. I can actually think about it rather than being in it and being in the burners. I got a little bit of perspective while I was away on holiday, which was nice, but I can actually get my head together with it and start looking at it as the case study that it is. And in that, I just lived through some of the most ridiculous bullying I've ever experienced in my life, and that counts for what happened the year before, which was way more understandable than this. This is mental, and I think the way that these guys line up and stack up on each other is something which you don't consider unless you see it in action. And I hope that it will be helpful to people in the future who might come across it, who might be suffering from something like this in the private. Can you imagine? At least here, they've done it all in public. The only person who's a bit of a exception to that is Tommy, and he's done a lot of his stuff in comments and in the private. A lot of his stuff is operated, so you'll not get that much evidence from his channel. It's more just pinball. But if you know what you're looking for and you know what you're looking at, you'll see it. And that's what happened with Messiah, because he's a troll from another tribe. He's a troll from another tribe that's just took down the fucking woman hating, pestering, sex pest fucking horrible scum of the internet bastard, cheap ass bastard who just trying to make himself feel better by dragging other people down. So he's fresh from that. And there's more than that person around, and so there aren't a huge amount of people who can see what they're looking at in this community, as I've seen. But there's a few, and we've found each other, which is absolutely fantastic as a result. And I've managed to cut through quite a lot of the bullshit here and just get some decent people going forward. There's also anyone who comes who's got any interest in narcissism or anything like that. You'll see what it is if you're interested enough, you know what I mean? I look at it and I think, God, if I was at a board afternoon or something, I'd be interested up to a point, just to have a little investigation, but probably wouldn't get as far as Q, because he's made himself quite hard to pinpoint for his activities. There will be times though when I'm doing the interesting streams in the future where I'll do screenshots and stuff of certain chats and things like that, which we can add to it, because there's a few dynamics that work within the chat that are needed to be added into this model to make it true to life of how this shit went down, to look at it and be like, okay, so if you were to deal with this with your aunties and your uncles and it's your family member or your spouse who's doing it, how could you best use any of that for learning? So that'll be one of the focuses as well going forward. So yes, we'll see what the future brings. Another question was, like I brought up the one example that he was really harping on the boob thing. What level of where did that put Evil's head? Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm going to be looking at. Regarding, this is a guy who I can't think went into this with nasty intentions, and knowing that I didn't actually do anything to piss him off, I really didn't. Like, when he comes down to it, especially to the level, I mean, even if he was hiding under his bushel that he couldn't stand to have interactions with me, even given that he hid it very well for a start, and he interacted very well with me to say that he couldn't. But even if it was, then it's not relevant. It's not comparable as a punishment, especially when you're given the other precedents in the community, as I've said before. But what does that say about someone? He said it to me many times, like that I was his last chance of happiness, that he's thrown it away, or was going to throw it away, or was going to fuck it up. I don't think that is the case. I think he'll probably do this again to someone else. But the person who does it to all the time is himself. And I think the reason why I went into looking at this is to stop me from doing something not like this, but a version of this to myself with my interactions with people, and just that self-destructive thing. And I have learned a lot from that, I think. But I think I was already done with my self-destruction of my youth, in that sense. But it's definitely given me a lot of learning, and I do care about Evils, or the person who I knew. And I'm going to be looking at that as well, like, where does that put his head? But I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just going to be so full of my own whimsy that's going to be more of a self-analysis than anything else. It'll be like doing the fucking tarot, looking at him. Doing a self-reflection through him, like Projection City. But I'm sure there'll be plenty of interesting things. Challenging myself, I think, in looking at this stuff is going to be a big part of it. It's going to be really, really interesting, and probably one of the good things I could be doing with my time.